Jack Miller checked his uniform one last time in the small mirror of his quarters. The blue and silver outfit still felt strange after years in the standard Earth Space Command khakis. He brushed an invisible speck from his shoulder and took a deep breath. Today was the day humanity would truly step onto the galactic stage. Lieutenant Miller, report to Docking Bay 3, the ship's computer announced. The Coalition representatives have arrived. Jack grabbed his translator device and hurried through the corridors of the starship Frontier. Just 6 months ago, humanity's first warp-capable test flight had attracted the attention of something called the Galactic Coalition. Now, Earth was sending its first official representatives aboard the Coalition's massive diplomatic vessel. Jack still couldn't believe he was one of the 4 chosen. He arrived at the docking bay where Commander Lavra Bennett was already waiting. Her expression was serious as always, but Jack noticed how she kept adjusting her collar. "Nervous, Commander?" he asked. Lavara gave him a sideways glance. "Wouldn't you be?" "We're about to meet beings from across the galaxy, Miller. Everything we say and do will reflect on Earth." Dr. Frank Peterson joined them, carrying his ever-present datapad. The scientist had barely slept since being selected for the mission, too busy studying the limited information the Coalition had shared about galactic biology. "This is history," Frank said, his eyes bright with excitement. "First official human delegation to an alien vessel. Security Chief Diane Cooper was the last to arrive, her sharp eyes already scanning the docking mechanism where the Coalition shuttle would connect. Let's remember our training. No sudden movements, follow protocols, and stay together." The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. Jack felt his heart pound as 7 different alien beings entered the room. They varied in size, shape, and color in ways that made Jack's mind struggle to process. Some had too many limbs, others too few. One appeared to be made of something like flowing crystal. A tall, blue-skinned being stepped forward. He had 4 arms and a face that seemed almost human-like except for the large pupil-less, silver eyes and the ridge of small spines running along the top of its head. When it spoke, the translator in Jack's ear converted the musical sounds into English. "Welcome, representatives of Earth. I am Zexkari, Senior Navigator of the Coalition, Vessel Light of Shared Wisdom. On behalf of the 17 member species of the Galactic Coalition, we welcome humanity's first steps into the broader community of spacefaring civilizations." Commander Bennett stepped forward and delivered the formal greeting they had practiced countless times. Jack watched the aliens' reactions, trying to interpret their body language. His role as communications specialist went beyond just words. He needed to understand the unspoken messages, too. The introductions continued as each alien identified themselves and their role. Jack tried to memorize names and species, though some were nearly impossible for his human tongue to pronounce. "We have prepared quarters for your stay," Zexkari said after the formalities concluded. "Please follow Guide Sentinel Muir, who will show you to your accommodations." A short, stocky alien with rust-colored skin and what looked like natural armor plating gestured for them to follow. As the group began to move, Zexkari stepped closer to Jack. "Lieutenant Miller, as the communications specialist, perhaps you would appreciate a brief tour of our navigation and communication systems. They are quite different from your Earth technology." Jack glanced at Commander Bennett, who gave a small nod of approval. "I would be honored," Jack replied. As the others followed Muir, Zexkari led Jack in a different direction. They walked through corridors that seemed to shift and change subtly as they passed. The walls glowed with soft light that had no obvious source. "Your species has developed quite rapidly," Zexkari said as they walked. "From primitive radio to warp capability in less than 200 cycles. Most impressive." "We're eager learners," Jack said, trying to match the alien's casual tone while absorbing every detail of the ship. They entered a lift that moved not just up and down, but sideways and at angles Jack couldn't quite grasp. His stomach lurched uncomfortably. "You'll adjust to the spatial shift soon," Zexkari said, noticing Jack's discomfort. "Most new species do." The lift stopped and they stepped out into a corridor that looked different from the others, darker, with fewer passing crew members. Is this the navigation section? Jack asked. A specialized part of it, Zexkari answered, approaching a door at the end of the hall. The alien waved a three-fingered hand over a panel, and the door slid open to reveal a small room filled with what looked like three-dimensional star charts floating in the air. Jack stepped inside, amazed by the display of stars and planets hovering before him. He recognized some constellations from Earth's perspective. The door closed with a soft click. Jack turned to find Zexkari standing between him and the exit, the alien's silver eyes studying him intently. Zexkari's mouth curved into what Jack could only interpret as a smirk. "Just us here," the navigator said, and shut the door firmly behind him. Jack tensed, his hand instinctively moving toward the emergency beacon in his pocket. 4 months of diplomatic training ran through his mind, scenarios of first contact gone wrong playing out in seconds. But instead of threatening him, Zexkari moved to the center of the room and waved his hands through the star display. The image shifted, zooming in on Earth's solar system. Jack noticed unusual markings around several planets, including Earth, Mars, and even some of the moons of Jupiter. "What are those symbols?" Jack asked, curiosity overcoming his caution. "Resource extraction points?" "Genetic sampling locations, observation posts," Zexkari said flatly. "Your species has been watched for centuries, Lieutenant Miller. What I'm about to tell you cannot be shared with the Coalition leadership." Jack's mind raced. This wasn't part of the official welcome they had expected. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because your world is in danger," Zexkari said, the smirk gone, replaced by an expression Jack couldn't read. "The Galactic Coalition presented to your leaders is not what it appears to be." The blue-skinned alien manipulated the display again, showing images of what looked like mining operations on Mars and Europa, places where, as far as Jack knew, humans had never established permanent bases. "Some of us believe it is time for the truth," Zexkari continued. "And humans have a reputation, even among those who would exploit you." "A reputation for what?" Jack asked. Zexkari's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "For unpredictability. For resistance. For changing the rules of the game." The alien's mouth formed that unsettling smirk again. "We've been watching your entertainment broadcasts for decades. Your stories of humans facing overwhelming odds and somehow prevailing. Some of us find them ... inspirational." Jack looked back at the display, at his home system marked with alien symbols. "What exactly are you asking of me? For now? Listen and observe. The Coalition representatives will show you wonders and offer knowledge. They will not show you everything." Zexkari moved closer. "When the time comes, I will contact you again. Then you must decide where humanity's future lies." The door behind them opened suddenly. Another alien stood there, this one tall and thin with greenish skin. "Navigator Zexkari, your presence is requested on the command deck," the newcomer sighed, eyes shifting suspiciously between Zexkari and Jack. "Of course," Zexkari replied smoothly. "I was just showing our human guests some of the navigational displays. Lieutenant Miller finds our star mapping quite fascinating." Jack forced a smile. "Very impressive technology. Thank you for the tour." As they left the room, Zexkari leaned slightly toward Jack and whispered, "Trust nothing they tell you about your own history. The truth is in your myths, not their science." Jack returned to the human quarters with his mind spinning, wondering if he had just been given vital information or cleverly manipulated. Either way, humanity's first steps into the galactic community had just become far more complicated than anyone on Earth had imagined. Jack couldn't sleep. He lay in his bed aboard the Frontier, staring at the ceiling. 3 days had passed since his strange meeting with Zexkari. The Earth delegation had attended formal dinners, toured public areas of the massive coalition vessel, and sat through presentations about galactic history and culture. Everything seemed friendly and open, but Jack couldn't shake the navigator's warning. He got up and moved to the small window in his quarters. Earth was visible in the distance, a blue marble hanging in the blackness. If what Zexkari had said was true, alien mining operations had been active in their solar system for centuries. How had humans never noticed? The door chimed softly. Jack quickly pulled on his uniform jacket. Enter! Commander Lavra Bennett stepped into the room, her face serious. Can't sleep either? Jack shook his head. Too much to process. Lavra walked to the window and stood beside him. You've been distracted since the first day. What happened during your tour with the Navigator? Jack hesitated. He respected Lavara, but sharing Zexkari's claims without proof felt dangerous. What if it was some kind of test or a trick to create division? Commander, if you learned something that contradicted everything we've been told about the Coalition, what would you do? Laura's eyes narrowed. That's not a hypothetical question, is it, Lieutenant? She moved away from the window. Tell me exactly what happened. Jack described his meeting with Zexkari, the star map showing alien activity in their solar system, and the Navigator's warnings about the true nature of the Coalition. Lavrai listened without interrupting. When Jack finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Have you told anyone else? No, Commander, she nodded. Good, keep it that way for now. She paced the small room. We need proof before making accusations. That could damage humanity's position. The Coalition is offering us advanced technology, medical knowledge, everything we've dreamed of. What if it comes with a price we don't see yet? Jack asked. Then we find out what that price is. Lavara stopped pacing. I'm not dismissing what you were told, but we need more information. Keep your eyes open. If this Zexkari contacts you again, let me know immediately. After Lavra left, Jack couldn't go back to bed. He dressed and headed to the ship's observation deck. The Frontier was small compared to the Coalition vessel, but it represented humanity's best technology. Jack felt a surge of pride mixed with worry. Were they truly ready for the wider galaxy? The observation deck door slid open, revealing Dr. Frank Peterson hunched over a workstation, surrounded by holographic displays of cellular structures. You're up late, Doctor, Jack said. Frank jumped slightly. Oh, Lieutenant Miller, yes, He gestured to the displays. The Coalition provided biological samples from 20 different worlds. I've been comparing them to Earth life. His eyes were bloodshot but excited. It's fascinating work. Jack moved closer to the displays. Found anything interesting? Frank's expression changed, becoming more guarded. Actually, yes. But it's probably nothing. He waved his hand and several displays minimized. Just some unusual similarities I wasn't expecting. What kind of similarities? Jack asked, suddenly alert. Frank hesitated. Certain genetic markers. They appear in Earth species but also in life from worlds thousands of light years apart. He ran a hand through his messy hair. In nature, such specific sequences shouldn't appear identically across such vast distances unless ... Unless what? Unless they were deliberately placed there. Frank looked uncomfortable. But that would suggest some kind of intervention. An evolutionary process across multiple worlds. It's more likely I'm just misinterpreting the data. Jack thought about the markings on Zexkari's star chart. Could you show me these markers? Frank pulled up several DNA sequences. See this pattern here? It appears in Earth dolphins, but also in aquatic species from 3 other worlds. The statistical probability of this occurring naturally is... He shook his head. Well, it's essentially 0. Could this be evidence of genetic harvesting? Jack asked carefully. Frank stared at him. Harvesting? Why would you use that word? Before Jack could answer, Security Chief Diane Cooper entered the observation deck. There you two are. We have a situation. Both men turned toward her. Diane's face was tense, her hand resting near her sidearm. I've been monitoring communications between the Coalition vessel and other ships in the system, she said quietly. Standard security protocol. I picked up transmissions being sent to unmarked vessels in the outer solar system. They're encrypted, but ... She pulled out a small device and activated it. Listen to this. A garbled voice filled the air, speaking in an alien language. Jack couldn't understand the words, but one sound repeated several times. That word, Jack said. It sounds like their term for human, Diane nodded. It's repeated 18 times. In a 2-minute transmission? And these unmarked ships? They've been making regular trips between the outer system and Earth orbit for at least 2 years. Based on trajectory analysis, Frank looked between them. Are you suggesting the Coalition has been operating secretly around Earth before official contact? I'm not suggesting anything, Diane said firmly. I'm reporting facts. Commander Bennett asked me to investigate quietly after Lieutenant Miller shared certain ... concerns. Jack felt a chill, so she believed me. Let's say she thought it was worth checking, Diane replied. And now we have more questions than answers. The ship's computer chimed softly. Incoming transmission from the Coalition vessel for Lieutenant Jack Miller. The three officers exchanged glances. Put it through, Jack said. A holographic display appeared, showing Zexkari. The navigator's silver eyes seemed to glow. Lieutenant? Miller, I hope I'm not disturbing your rest cycle. I wondered if you might join me for a discussion of interstellar navigation techniques. Your ship's data shows you have experience in this area. It was clearly a pretext. Jack glanced at Diane, who gave a small nod. I'd be happy to, Navigator Zexkari. Where shall I meet you? Docking Bay 7, Level 3 of our vessel. In 1 Earth hour? The navigator's expression was unreadable. Come alone? Some of my techniques are not officially sanctioned, the transmission ended. It's a trap, Diane said immediately. Or it's our chance to learn more, Jack countered. Frank looked worried. The commander should know about this. She does, Diane said, tapping her communicator. She's been listening. Orders, Commander? Laura's voice came through clearly. Lieutenant Miller will go. We need answers. Chief Cooper, prepare a tracking device and emergency extraction plan. Dr. Peterson, continue analyzing those genetic markers. If there's evidence of interference with Earth's development, I want to know. Jack felt a mix of anxiety and determination. And if Zexkari is telling the truth? If the Coalition isn't what it seems? Then, LeVar replied gravely, we need to find out their real intentions before we welcome them to Earth with open arms. Be careful, Lieutenant. This isn't a training exercise anymore. 1 hour later, Jack stood in the Coalition vessel's docking Bay 7. The huge space was eerily empty except for a few small transport craft. Zexkari emerged from behind one of them, moving with a fluid grace that still seemed slightly unnatural to human eyes. You came? The navigator said. Good, we don't have much time. The alien looked around nervously. I took a great risk showing you those star charts. Some of my associates think I've made a mistake. What associates? Jack asked. Who are you really? Zexkari's 4 hands made a complex gesture. I belong to a group called the Truth Bearers. We oppose the Coalition's exploitation practices. The alien stepped closer. Your species has something we've never seen before, the ability to unite despite differences. We need that if we're going to reform the Coalition. Reform? Jack tensed. Or replace. Zexkari's mouth formed that now familiar smirk. That Lieutenant Miller depends entirely on what you and your people decide to do with the truth I'm about to show you. Zexkari led Jack through a series of maintenance corridors. These passages were different from the grand hallways shown to the Earth delegation. They were narrower, dimly lit, and smelled of something Jack couldn't identify. The navigator moved quickly, checking around corners before proceeding. Where are we going? Jack asked, touching the emergency beacon hidden in his pocket. Diane had given it to him before he left the frontier. To see what the Coalition doesn't want you to see, Zexkari replied. Your people deserve to know the truth before making any agreements. They descended through what seemed like service shafts, going deeper into the massive vessel. Jack tried to memorize their path, but the twisting route soon became confusing. Finally, they reached a sealed door with markings Jack's translator couldn't interpret. This section is restricted to highest-level Coalition security, Zexkari explained, placing his blue hand on a scanner. Fortunately, navigators need access to all areas in case of emergency evacuation. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Jack followed Zexkari into a large chamber filled with rows of transparent containers. Each was about 2 meters long and glowed with a soft blue light. Jack moved closer to the nearest one and froze. Inside was a human. A man, maybe 40 years old, floating in clear liquid, eyes closed. Tubes and sensors connected to his body. Jack quickly moved to the next container. Another human and another. What is this? Jack whispered, horror spreading through him. Zexkari moved beside him. Research subjects. The Coalition has been collecting specimens from Earth for decades. Jack counted at least 30 containers. In the room. Are they alive? In a way. They are in suspended animation. Their bodies are studied, their genes mapped, their brain patterns recorded. Zexkari pointed to a display panel near one container. This one was taken 8 Earth years ago from a small town in what you call Montana. Jack felt sick. You're saying these people were abducted? The Coalition prefers the term acquired for scientific advancement, Zexkari's face showed. Disgust. This is why the Truth Bearers formed. Many species have been treated this way before being officially contacted. Jack took out his small camera and began recording. How many humans have been taken? From your world? Perhaps 300 over the last century. Your species has shown remarkable biological adaptability. It makes you valuable subjects. Jack moved through the rows, documenting each face. These were people reported missing, their families never knowing what happened to them. He stopped at a container holding a young woman who couldn't be more than 20. The Coalition will tell you they come in peace, offering knowledge and technology, Zexkari said. They won't mention the price other worlds have paid. Jack's communicator beeped. Commander Bennett's voice came through, tense and urgent. Lieutenant Miller, return to the frontier immediately. Coalition security is looking for you. They're claiming you accessed restricted areas without authorization. Jack looked at Zexkari. Did you know this would happen? The alien Silver. Eyes blinked. I suspected they might be monitoring you. We need to leave now. They hurried back through the maintenance corridors, taking a different route. Jack's mind raced, processing what he had seen. If the Coalition had been secretly abducting humans for experiments, what else were they hiding? There's a secondary docking area this way, Zexkari said, pointing down a dark passage. You can return to your ship from there. Before they could move, light suddenly flooded the corridor. 4 Coalition security officers appeared, weapons drawn. Their uniforms were different from the regular crew, black with silver symbols on the chest. Navigator Zexkari, you are in violation of security protocols, one of them said, voice cold and mechanical through the translator. The human must be detained for questioning. Jack tensed, ready to fight or run. Zexkari stepped forward. All 4 hands raised in a gesture Jack didn't understand. This human is under my protection as senior navigator, Zexkari said. He was assisting me with calibrations for Earth approach vectors. The security officer's weapon didn't waver. Our orders come directly from Coordinator. Then, the human delegation is to be confined to their quarters pending investigation. Jack touched his emergency beacon. Sending the distress signal to Diane, he needed to get back to the frontier with the evidence he had gathered. I understand, Zexkari said calmly. Then he suddenly spun around, grabbed Jack's arm, and pulled him into a side passage. Run! They sprinted through the narrow corridor as energy weapons fired behind them, leaving scorch marks on the walls. Zexkari moved with surprising speed, guiding Jack through a maze of maintenance tunnels. The Coalition will not let you leave with what you've seen, the navigator said between breaths. They've likely already sent a delegation to your ship. To contain the situation? Jack's communicator crackled with static. Lieutenant ... Coalition officers ... demanding ... Dr. Peterson. Evidence of ... breach protocols. Commander Bennett's voice faded in and out. They reached a small cargo bay. Zexkari rushed to a control panel and began entering commands. What's happening on my ship? Jack demanded. Zexkari didn't look up from the panel. They likely know. Your scientists discovered the genetic markers. The Coalition will claim he violated research protocols, accessed restricted data. It's how they control new species, create incidents, demand concessions, establish dependency. The cargo bay door opened, revealing a small transport craft. This will take you to your ship, Zexkari said. I cannot come with you. I must find others who will help. Jack hesitated. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, Zexkari admitted, but the evidence you collected is real. What happens next depends on what your people do with it. Alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Jack made his decision and climbed into the transport. Through the viewport, he saw Zexkari operating controls to open the exterior bay doors. The small craft shot out from the massive Coalition vessel, heading toward the frontier. As Jack approached his ship, he saw another Coalition craft already docked. He needed to warn his crew. Aboard the frontier, chaos had erupted. Dr. Frank Peterson was creating a diversion by accidentally releasing a harmless but visually alarming bacterial culture in the science lab. The Coalition officials who had boarded were focused on containing what they believed was a dangerous contamination. Commander Lavra Bennett used the distraction to meet Jack at the auxiliary docking port. Her face was grim. They're demanding we hand over all research materials and submit to questioning, she said as they hurried through the corridors. They claim we violated multiple protocols. It's a cover-up, Jack said, showing her the recording device. I found humans in stasis chambers. They've been abducting people for years. Laura's eyes widened. Chief Cooper is holding them off in the main conference room. We need to get this evidence to Earth immediately. They reached the communication center where Diane Cooper was working frantically at the controls. Our main channels are being blocked, she reported. They're jamming our transmissions to Earth. Can we break through? Lavra asked. Diane nodded. Maybe. I need 10 minutes to reconfigure our emergency beacon to carry data packets. Jack handed over his recording device. Make it 5, we don't have much time. Alarms began sounding throughout the frontier. The ship's computer announced, warning, unauthorized access to main engine controls. Propulsion systems offline. They're trying to trap us here, Lavra said. Diane, get that message out. Jack, with me. We need to regain control of our ship. As they rushed toward the engine room, Jack saw movement through a viewport. More Coalition vessels were approaching, surrounding the frontier. His communicator activated. Zexkari's voice came through, tense and urgent. Your ship isn't fast enough to escape. Coalition forces have been alerted. You'll have to trust me one more time. Jack looked at Commander Bennett. What do we do? Lavra stared at the approaching Coalition ships, her face hardening with resolve. We fight for the truth. And we make sure Earth knows exactly what kind of friends have come calling. The frontier shook as another energy pulse hit its shields. Commander Lavra Bennett steadied herself against a console and checked the display. Shield strength at 60%, she announced. They're not trying to destroy us. Just disable. Yes? Jack looked at the main screen. 5 Coalition vessels now surrounded them, their weapons charged but firing only low-power pulses. A 6th ship approached, smaller than the others and moving faster. That's not a Coalition design, Diane Cooper said, pointing to the newcomer. Different engine signature? The communications system crackled. Frontier crew, this is Zexkari. Prepare for emergency jump. My ship will create a disruption field. When it activates, follow exactly the course I'm transmitting now. Data flowed across their navigation screens, a complex series of coordinates and maneuvers. We can't trust him, Diane said firmly. Dr. Frank Peterson looked up from his station. Those Coalition officers were very interested in my genetic research, too interested. They tried to delete my findings before they left. Lavra studied the transmitted course. This takes us beyond the outer solar system. If it's a trap, we'll be far from help. And if it's not? Jack asked. Commander, I saw those humans in stasis tanks. The Coalition has been lying from the start. Lavra made her decision. Prepare for jump on my mark. If this navigator wanted us captured, he wouldn't have helped Jack escape. The small ship piloted by Zexkari suddenly accelerated toward the nearest Coalition vessel. It released a pulse of bright energy that spread like a wave. The Coalition ship's lights flickered. Now, Lavra ordered. The Frontier's engines roared. To life, the ship shot forward, following the course Zexkari had sent. Behind them, the Coalition vessels struggled to restore power as the disruption field interfered with their systems. Jack watched as Zexkari's small ship also accelerated away, taking a different path. Will he be able to find us again? If he wants to, Lavaro replied. For now, let's see where these coordinates lead. The Frontier traveled for 3 hours, making a series of small jumps through space. Each jump took them farther from Earth, following a zigzag pattern that would be difficult to track. Finally, they approached what looked like empty space. Nothing here, Diane reported, scanning the area. And just cosmic dust and radiation. Suddenly, a signal appeared on their communications system. A voice spoke in slightly accented English. Earth Vessel Frontier, maintain your current course. Guidance systems will activate shortly. Before anyone could respond, small lights appeared in the darkness ahead, forming a path. As the Frontier moved closer, a massive structure became visible. It had been hidden by some kind of cloaking technology. It's a space station, Frank whispered in awe. The station was unlike anything humans had designed. It seemed to be built inside a hollowed-out asteroid with sections extending outward like branches. Ships of various designs were docked along its surface. Frontier, you are cleared for docking at Bay 12, the voice instructed. Follow the guide lights. Lavra looked at her crew. Opinions? We're already committed, Jack said. And we need allies. Agreed, Frank added. The Coalition will label us as thieves or spies by now. We can't go home without support. Diane checked her weapons. I don't like it, but we're low on options. Shields are at 40% after those jumps. Lavra nodded. Take us in, slow and careful. Be ready for anything. The Frontier docked at the designated bay. Through the viewports, they could see beings of different species moving about the station. None wore Coalition uniforms. A reception party waited as they exited their ship. 3. Aliens of different species stood beside Zexkari. The largest was a reptilian being with golden scales and vertical pupils. Next to it was a small, gray-skinned creature with 4 arms similar to Zexkari's, but with large black eyes. The third looked almost human except for the ridge of bone across its forehead and pale purple skin. Welcome to Haven Station, the reptilian being said, its voice deep and rumbling. I am Thress, commander of this facility. These are my associates, Len and Cora. It gestured to the small gray alien and the purple humanoid in turn. Commander Lavra Bennett of Earth Vessel. Frontier? Lavar replied formally. This is my crew, Lieutenant Jack Miller, Dr. Frank Peterson, and Security Chief Diane Cooper. Thress's eyes fixed on Jack. The Navigator tells us you have seen the truth of Coalition practices firsthand. Jack nodded. They're keeping humans in stasis for experimentation, and they've been operating in our solar system without our knowledge. Standard procedure, Len said, voice high and musical. They did the same to my world 3 centuries ago, by the time we were offered official contact. They already controlled our major resources. Thress gestured for them to follow. Come, there are others you should meet. They were led through corridors carved from asteroid rock but lined with advanced technology. Beings from at least a dozen different species worked at various stations. None wore Coalition uniforms or insignia. What is this place? Lavra asked. A sanctuary and base of operations for the Truth-Bearers, Cora explained, her voice melodic and accent-free. We represent 12 species who oppose the Coalition's methods. They entered a large chamber with a circular table. Around it sat representatives of different alien races. Some looked vaguely humanoid, others were completely unlike anything the humans had seen before. One appeared to be made of crystalline structures, another was a floating mass of tentacles. Our newest allies, Thress announced to the gathering. From Earth, a world being prepared for Coalition membership, the alien that resembled floating crystal spoke, its voice resonating like chimes. You found evidence of their collection program? Jack stepped forward. Yes, and their secret operations in our system. Show them, Zexkari urged. Jack activated his recording device, projecting images of the humans in stasis chambers. The aliens around the table watched in silence. Some made gestures that might have indicated disgust or anger. When the recording finished, Thress spoke. Again, this is why we fight. The coalition began as a true alliance between spacefaring species. Over time it became an empire. New worlds are not invited to join. They are harvested, controlled, exploited. Why does no one resist? Diane asked. Many try, Len said sadly. The coalition controls technology, resources, trade routes. They make worlds dependent before. They can build strength to oppose them. Cora nodded. My people refused their guidance a century ago. Our main colony world was struck by an asteroid shortly after. Millions died. The coalition then offered humanitarian aid with conditions. But you're different, Zexkari said, looking at the humans. Your planet, despite its divisions, has remarkable unity when threatened. And you develop space travel without coalition guidance. Thress moved to a large display at the center of the room. We have been working to reform the coalition from within for centuries. Progress has been slow. But your world presents a new opportunity. The display showed Earth, surrounded by what looked like defense plans. The coalition has mapped your world for resource extraction. Once you sign their friendship treaties, they will establish bases. First for cultural exchange, later for security cooperation. Jack felt a chill. They're planning to take over. Not take over, Len corrected. Manage, as they manage 100 other worlds. What can we do? Lavra asked. Earth has no defense against their technology. Thress's reptilian face formed what might have been a smile. That is why you are here. We have a plan. But it requires something only humans seem able to provide. What's that? Frank asked. Unpredictability, Zexkari answered. The coalition builds its power on control and predictability. Their systems are designed to respond to expected behaviors. Humans ... He made that now familiar smirk. Humans do the unexpected. Cora stepped forward. The coalition believes your ship is damaged or destroyed after the energy pulse. They don't know about Haven Station? We have time to prepare? Prepare for what? Jack asked. Thress's eyes gleamed. To show the galaxy the truth about the coalition, all at once on every world. But to do it, we need humans who are willing to take a great risk. Lavra looked at her crew, then back to the alien representatives. Tell us the plan. 2 weeks passed aboard Haven Station. The humans worked closely with the truth-bearers, learning about the hidden structure of the Galactic Coalition and planning their next move. Jack spent most of his time with Zexkari, studying the Coalition's communication systems. Dr. Frank Peterson worked with alien scientists, examining the genetic evidence. Commander Lavra Bennett and Security Chief Diane Cooper focused on strategy. The plan is ready, Thress announced during their final meeting. The reptilian leaders stood before the gathered representatives of 13 species, the truth-bearers. And now the humans of Earth. We have one chance to expose the truth to all coalition worlds simultaneously. The central display showed a complex network of communication relays spanning hundreds of star systems. Zexkari pointed to key nodes. For centuries, we've placed dormant programs in the coalition's communication systems. When activated, they will override all channels and broadcast to every connected world. What will they broadcast? Jack asked. Everything, Len replied, the small gray alien's large eyes blinking rapidly. The stasis chambers of captive beings, the secret mining operations, the sabotage of resistant worlds, records of deliberate genetic manipulation across 100 planets. Cora, the purple-skinned humanoid, continued. The coalition leadership keeps these records from most member species. Only the 7 founding races know the full truth. The rest believe they are part of a benevolent alliance. But the frontier must be the trigger, Thress said. The coalition believes your ship was lost. Your return will create confusion, giving us the distraction needed to activate the programs. Lavra studied the plan. You want us to surrender to the coalition? Appear to surrender, Zexkari corrected. The frontier will return to coalition space, claiming engine damage forced you to drift until repairs were possible. When they bring You aboard their command vessel, we strike? It's risky, Diane pointed out. They could just destroy us. They won't, Thress assured her. Humans are too valuable as research subjects. They will want you alive? Jack didn't find that particularly comforting. And while we're creating this distraction, what happens? I will lead a team to the central communication hub, Zexkari explained. We'll activate the dormant programs, broadcasting the evidence to every coalition world simultaneously. The timing must be perfect, Cora added. Once the broadcast begins, coalition security will try to shut it down. We need at least 3 minutes to transmit enough evidence to make an impact. Lavra looked at her crew. This isn't just about Earth anymore. We're talking about changing the future for hundreds of worlds. She turned back to Thress. We'll do it. 2 days later, the Frontier approached Coalition space. Their communications system activated with a simple message. Coalition vessel detected. Please identify. Lavra took a deep breath and responded. This is Commander Lavra Bennett of Earth Vessel Frontier. We experienced critical engine failure and have been adrift. Requesting assistance. There was a long pause before the reply came. Frontier, your ship was reported lost. Stand by for boarding and inspection. 3 coalition vessels surrounded them. On the Frontier's bridge, the crew exchanged nervous glances. Remember the plan, Lavra said quietly. We stick to our story. Engine failure, communication systems damaged. We've been drifting and making repairs. A large coalition ship moved alongside them. Jack recognized it as the vessel where he'd found the humans in stasis chambers. His hands tightened on the console. Boarding party approaching, Diane reported. 5 life forms, Lavra nodded. Let them come. And let's hope Zexkari and his team are in position. The coalition officers boarded with weapons drawn. Their leader, a tall being with gray skin and 6 eyes, studied the humans suspiciously. Commander Bennett, your disappearance caused quite a concern. The Coalition High Administrator wishes to speak with you directly. We're happy to comply, Lavra said calmly. Our engines are functioning at minimal capacity. Will you escort us? The officer nodded. Your ship will be towed to the command vessel. Your crew will accompany me for debriefing. As they were led to the coalition ship, Jack activated the small transmitter hidden in his uniform. The signal would alert Zexkari that they were in position. Aboard the massive command vessel, the humans were brought to a large chamber where a holographic figure awaited. The Coalition High Administrator appeared as a swirling mass of light rather than a physical form. Commander Bennett, the figure spoke, its voice coming from all directions. Your return is unexpected. Our analysis suggested your ship was destroyed. We were fortunate, Lavara replied. Though our systems were damaged, we managed to. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. The holographic figure flickered. What is happening? It demanded. One of the coalition officers rushed to a console. Security breach in communication sector. An authorized transmission in progress. Zexkari had begun the broadcast. Now they needed to buy time. Perhaps it's a malfunction in your systems, Frank suggested innocently. We noticed similar issues before our engines failed. The High Administrator's form pulsed angrily. Restrain them! This is their doing! As coalition officers moved toward the humans, Diane acted. She triggered the small device Len had given her. The lights in the chamber flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. Move! Lavra ordered. They had memorized the layout of the command vessel from Zexkari-S data. In the darkness, they made their way toward the emergency evacuation pods. Throughout the vessel, chaos spread as the transmission continued. On screens across the ship, evidence of the Coalition's true activities played for all to see. Similar scenes were occurring on every Coalition world and vessel. The humans reached the evacuation bay just as emergency power activated. Diane sealed the doors behind them as Jack prepared a pod for launch. Do you think it worked? Frank asked as they climbed inside. Look, Lavra pointed to a nearby screen. It showed coalition vessels throughout the system breaking formation. Some were firing on each other. I'd say something definitely happened. The evacuation pod launched, shooting away from the command vessel. As they watched through the viewport, more coalition ships appeared, but they weren't pursuing the small pod. They were taking positions around each other, weapons charged. The coalition is fracturing, Jack said. Some ships are protecting Earth, others are maintaining position with the command vessel. Laura's communicator activated. Zexkari's voice came through, breathless but triumphant. It worked. The transmission reached every world. Coalition. Leadership is in chaos as member species demand explanations. 3 months later, Jack stood in a large hall on Earth. Representatives from 27 worlds had gathered to sign the new Interstellar Concordat, a genuine alliance based on mutual respect and transparent governance. The coalition had dissolved. As member worlds learned the truth about its activities, some of the founding species faced sanctions for their actions. Others joined the reform movement. Earth, despite its technological limitations, was granted a full seat on the new council. The humans who had been kept in stasis chambers were returned to Earth, though many would need time to adjust to their freedom and the changed world they returned to. As the ceremony concluded, Zexkari approached Jack. The Navigator smirk had been replaced by what seemed to be a genuine smile. "This is just the beginning," Zexkari said. "Your species brings something unique to the stars you. Never stop questioning, never stop pushing boundaries. The universe needs that more than you know." Jack looked out at the delegates from across the galaxy and felt, for the first time, that humanity had found its place among the stars not as subjects or specimens, but as equals with their own vital contribution to make. "Just us here now," Jack said, echoing Zexkari's words from their first meeting. "Just us shaping our own future," the alien navigator nodded in agreement. "And what a future it will be."